Hola, hola. Today we'll be making chiles rellenos, one of my favorite Mexican dishes. Let's get started. So when choosing poblano peppers to stuff, you will have to pay attention a little more to the chile. Make sure that it is smooth and flat rather than curved up or wrinkly. It makes it much easier when you go to stuff it, and also when it's time to clean them after they're charred. Just much easier to deal with. Like this one here has a little bit of a wrinkle in it. Not too bad, but it should be fine. Just keep that in mind when you're going to get them for stuffing. Now, if you're picking them for making sauces or anything else, it's not as important. But yes, for stuffing, it is. So time to get these chiles charred. I'm doing it on the stovetop today on a grill pan. I usually do it just on the actual burner itself, but trying to save on messes, I think, by using this. So we'll see how this goes. You just want to get them as even as you can on all sides, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Just don't overchar it because it'll literally burn the chile. And when you go to take off the skin, it will tear it completely. This is one of the steps that takes the longest, but it's also one that you can do ahead of time. I've even done my chiles up to a few days ahead of time and just left them in the refrigerator, covered up, already, with the skin off. As you can see here, I'm laying some of these on their side, just trying to get all sides charred a little bit. Like I said, they don't have to be completely perfectly charred all around. Most of that skin will still loosen up once you cover it, either in a bowl with the tight lid or in the bag. I usually use a bowl, but I will use both today just to show you how they both do the job. So whatever you use is fine. Around 20 minutes later, as you can see, some of this skin is really loosening up. And if I wanted to, I could just go ahead and start cleaning them off now. I'll get a little more time. And the same goes for what's here in the bowl. A lot of people think you have to use a bag, but I myself, I'd rather use a bowl with a tight fitting lid. Okay, so now it's time to peel them. I run water next to where I'm peeling just so I can keep wiping off my hands as I go. I also use some of the water as I am getting the seeds out. It helps in removing them. I don't rinse off the whole pepper per se, but I let a little bit of water run here and there on it, and I wipe my hands off as I go. There will be some left on all the time, and that's perfectly fine. It's just flavor. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, well, I heard you're not supposed to get water on the chiles. Well, I heard that too, but honestly, I've tried it both ways and there is no difference in taste. Mine are absolutely delicious, so you can do it however you want. I'm just showing you the way that I was taught by my mamacita. And remember, it is not going to be perfectly cleaned. There's going to be skin left on, but it's fine. No pasa nada. Okay, so I like to layer the chiles between paper towels just to absorb some of the excess moisture. And also at this point, if you are going to finish doing the chiles at a later time, you could go ahead and put them in the refrigerator like this. So now it's time to fill. We are doing some filled with meat and cheese and some with just cheese. So for the meat mixture, I used ground beef. Just kind of browned that up, put a little bit of onion, salt, pepper, ajo, comino, garlic and salt, and a little bit of tomato sauce, and let that simmer. And that was it for the meat. And I have here my queso fresco. You can use any brand of queso fresco that you find or like. I cubed it up. And then queso chihuahua. Same, there's a few different brands of that. And I do not recommend you substituting Monterey Jack or mozzarella for this. I know a lot of restaurants and other cooking channels do that quite a bit. I think maybe mozzarella is a little more economical, but nothing takes the place of the flavor of Chihuahua queso. It's very good for melting. It's good for quesadillas, for chilaquiles, and especially for chiles rellenos. So do not substitute if you want your chiles to taste as good as mine. The good thing is both of these cheeses are easy to find at pretty much any grocery store nowadays. Usually found in the cheese aisle or sometimes maybe a little specialty Hispanic area. Also, as you can see, my chiles are still firm, but yet soft and pliable. They're not over soggy, which is good because then when you get the egg mixture on and get them in the oil, they'd be falling apart. As you can see, some of the chiles will have some seeds in them. I don't really worry about it since I like it hot. And if you'd rather not have much spicy in it, by all means, try and get most of the seeds out when you're cleaning them. So, to use toothpicks or not, I usually do not use toothpicks unless I have to, like if there's an extra rip in the chile or it's torn down the middle on both sides. But I'll go ahead and do a few with toothpicks and some without, just so you can see that both ways is fine. Just be careful not to overstuff. That would definitely cause a mess. And just kind of get some down in the crevices of the chile. That's another reason it's good to pick out chiles that aren't curved. They have more of a filling area available. There we go. See how this one's nice and closed up? Yeah, there's a little hole there, but it'll be fine once the egg is covering it. And we'll just continue. Ooh, this one has a lot of seeds in it, and it's fine. Ooh, 2 tears. Definitely a toothpick needed here. Okay, this one looks pretty good now. Good enough. So this one's going to be a little tricky. This one's almost split right down the middle on both sides, but we'll make it work. Let's do our magic. This one will be just queso. Okay, looks like we did it. Both sides are nice and closed up and it's ready to go. See, no pasa nada. The best thing to remember here is just don't be so hard on yourself. These are not going to be perfect, but they will taste perfect in the end. Okay, I'm getting my 2 cups of flour into a shallow dish, just big enough to where if you roll the pepper in it, there's enough room. 2 cups is more than enough. You'll want to take your eggs out of the fridge and leave them at room temp for about 20 minutes to a half hour before you start to beat the egg whites. Okay, so I will be separating the yolks from the whites. And as you can see, it will not be done perfectly, pero no pasa nada. It'll be fine. I like to do it in a different bowl than what I'm going to be doing the actual mixing in, just in case I drop a little shell in there. I can fish it out easily and keep the yolk separate as much as possible. So for beating the egg whites, you can use a hand mixer like I'll be using. You can use a large whisk or a stand-up mixer if you would like to. I'll be using, about 7 eggs for these 11 chiles. And probably only half of the egg yolk. And if you'd rather not use the egg yolk, you don't have to use it. I pretty much do it just for color. It's whatever your preference is. I'm using a stainless steel bowl here. I usually use either glass or stainless steel. plastic bowls tend to keep a little residue on them, even if you do wash them really good. So I just would rather not take the chance, and Mama always taught me to use a stainless steel or glass bowl, so I do. It also helps with aerating the egg whites if you have the bowl big enough. Keep in mind the egg whites will expand 3 times their volume when you're beating them. So you want to make sure it's not too small of a bowl. Okay, these look good enough to use. It doesn't have to be super stiff peaks for the chiles. I'm adding the yolk in, only about half of what I had here in the bowl. Just slowly fold it in, gently, and it'll be ready to coat our floured chiles. So I have a large pan with about 2 cups of cooking oil in it. And I'm going to check to see if it's hot enough to add the first chile. I'll just sprinkle a little bit of flour in here. That usually shows me that it's hot enough. So we will gently lay the first one in here. You don't want to just plop it in. You have to introduce the first part of the chile in and slowly lay the rest of it in there till it lays good. I'm just making sure to put egg everywhere that I can see the flour on the chile. Getting it nice and coated. And gently get this one in. As the oil gets hotter, when you lay the chile in, sometimes if you would do it too fast, all the egg on the bottom will spread all over your pan. So as you can see, I did it nice and gently here. Make sure you do have enough oil in the pan that it covers the height about halfway of the chile. That way when you turn it over, half of it will be already cooked and the other half will be touching the oil as well. Otherwise, you can go ahead and just kind of lay them on their side when you need to also, like I will be doing. This pan that I'm using is pretty big. I could probably fit a good 8 chiles in here. But you don't want to get them too close together, so I probably stick with about 6. You can use a smaller pan if you'd like to just do a couple at a time. Whatever works for you or whatever you have on hand is just fine. Oh, another thing, you will be using 2 utensils to turn these. Preferably like one that's flat, like a spatula, and then another one, could be a spoon or whatever. Just don't use tongs because you risk squishing the chile and making a mess. It's much easier when you have two utensils here. Much easier to be gentle with these. Oh, by the way, I'm using a stainless steel pan here, which works perfectly great. If you want to use Teflon or a different material, that's fine too. Looky here. Don't these look delicious? You know, for some reason, I think a lot of people are intimidated when it comes to trying to make chiles rellenos. And I get it. It's not a really quick meal. There's, quite a few steps. It's messy, definitely. So be ready to do some cleaning right as you go if you're like me. But just do it. You'll be happy you did. Make plenty to have leftovers. Look at these. It will all be worth it. So here's the finished product. We serve our chiles rellenos with my salsa guisada over the top of the chile. And that recipe is available on another video on Kitchen Vida channel. It's absolutely a must with our chiles rellenos and can be used many other ways as well, so check that out. If you have any questions or comments about the recipe, feel free to do that and I will gladly get back to you. I love feedback. And once again, if you're interested in the salsa guisada recipe, go to my channel and subscribe. I have lots more to come. And I have surprises coming too. So, I hope you make this recipe. Adios and provecho.